Hi, this is Leo Volont. This is part 6 of my 7-part series. Democracy is a bad thing. This chapter is The Moral Dilemma. We discuss here the rise of John Locke's blank slate theory and the general optimism from the Age of Enlightenment that stoked the fires of democracy. And then the dark clouds of truth that rolled in with the 20th century and all that actual knowledge about things. Democracy could only work for us if we gamed it. But can we be that cynical? But yeah, group social dynamics and sundry other instincts are the kind of stuff that us biologically sourced human beings from the animal kingdom carry around in our heads. It sort of leaves us open to psychological manipulation, doesn't it? But how many of us acknowledge to ourselves that we are animals? You know, that we can be trained to jump through hoops and sit up and beg. The oldest propaganda going back involved setting up that great divide, elevating ourselves distinctly above the animal kingdom as being different in substance and higher in quality. We were spiritual and animals weren't. Grandma whispered in our ear about pet heaven when Spot went to the farm to stop us crying, but Granny always was a sweet old heretic. We know the primary aim of the world religions was to idealize human beings and spiritualize us up to the point of placing us shoulder to shoulder with the angels. Yes, those cynical, evil, manipulative priests did that so that when they asked us to behave better than animals, we would. Damn them! But then when God died, or when we killed him, then we developed a philosophy of humanism whereby we self-apotheosized ourselves. We made ourselves into our own gods. God is dead, long live us. So in this case, the course of human progress took us from being fooled by others to being self-deluded by ourselves. We are all still yet to achieve the height of human development. Cynicism. During the Age of Enlightenment, which I spoke of earlier, John Locke came up with the blank slate or tabula rasa theory, which would be used in the advancement of democracy's ideology. Cynics and pessimists of his time had argued that the vast majority of people didn't have the capacity for self-rule and were not so much managers as needing to be managed. Locke's blank slate theory promised instead that all men are born infinitely malleable and all potentially as capable as anybody can be. And with the correct upbringing and education, we could all maximize ourselves in both character and capacity, becoming enlightened Sir Isaac Newtons, Aristotle's, and Shakespeare's. That means we're all posh but just need a little polishing. Well, for almost the entire 19th century, there was a suspension of our collective critical faculties as we all pretended to believe in this obviously over-optimistic ideal. The French were the first democracy to blink. They developed the IQ test and found that given the same educational resources, there would still be a wide range of difference in intellectual capacity. Yes, it turns out that only about 15 to 20% of people can function at a responsible managerial level. Then advances in psychology uncovered fixed traits, some of them considered quite negative, which blew free will out of the water. Just be yourself might make a great slogan, but in the real world that translates, you can't be anything but your own unique bundle of peccadillo-ridden neuroses. You know, if the reason we accepted democracy as the ideal ideology is because we accepted as true all those gilded, overblown premises coming out of the Age of Reason, well, what should we do now? We now know that far more than the majority of people don't have the mental capacity to withstand targeted manipulation. So that would mean that democracy has simply become a contest in how the rival political parties can allocate resources in order to fool the teeming hordes of all our gullible idiot neighbors, families, and friends. The left should be the first to renounce democracy because, ironically, since they believe in the bloated and false promises the most, well, that would make them the most vulnerable of being sucked in by them, right? It isn't the selfish and predatory right wing that wants to return to some green, happy, idyllic collective in the Garden of Eden, is it? You know, the left accuses the right of being anti-science, but isn't it the conservative right wing that has the think tanks, the foundations, and their own research colleges? The Democrats don't have a fraction of the advanced degree talent that the right has. The left simply can't afford all those salaries. With their studies, research, private polling, etc., the conservative right can see what they're doing. To us, it's all just guesswork. We're blind. Good intentions, sincerity, and meaning well is no match for predictive knowledge and behavioral modeling. But even if we could afford to pay the freight for good, pragmatic, science-based advice on how to conquer all of the political landscape that lies before us, well, would we even take it? If Satan took us up to the top of the world mountain and offered up to us all four corners of the globe, if only we were cynical enough to take them, well, would we? Wouldn't many of us still choose the political Pollyanna of sincere good intentions? But the moral high road is only the way to Loserville. Yes, at some point along the way, we started believing our own propaganda. I know it still sounds to you like some worthy ideal, but sounding good doesn't make it true, and operating under false assumptions never gets you where you need to go. It is like with New Age people when one of them is really talking of that bull crap and you wonder whether he or she believes it and is stupid but sincere, or if he or she is trying to get over on you and scam you out of your money thinking that you're the one who's stupid. Well, who would you really have more respect for? At least the scammer isn't stupid, right? At least you can assume that the scammer sees the same universe you do, even if he or she doesn't have the best of moral centers. But sincere, true believers just see some pasteboard covers over everything. Nothing's real. Yeah, watch my Faculty of True Discernment video for insight into that sort of stuff. My point here is that if you think democracy is a good thing, then you must also think that it works. But there is no reason on earth why you should think that's so. Democracy is the train that got us here and everything is screwed up, right? Democracy is just an ideological belief, a kind of religious doctrine that has been imposed upon us by those who can afford to manage and control democracy. Our role in it is to be the good losers, to concede every time they win. But yeah, every false religion is built up on the chimera of faith. We'd reject democracy unless they'd allow us some hope that someday we might win. But do you honestly think that having faith in democracy will give us the miracle we pray for? No! There is no God here and they're the ones pulling all the levers. Remember, democracy was the ideology developed and advanced by capitalists in order to subvert and destroy the authoritarian governments that stood in their predatory, selfish ways. They never intended democracy to be government, but to be their weapon against government. Yes, they still insist on democracy, but not because they believe in it. No, not the same way we do. They're cynical about it, but in a good way, where they're convinced they have the power and resources to manage the results better than anybody else can. They took the satanic bargain, but not us. We're too pure or too poor to win. Well, that's it for part 6. Part 7 will be the home stretch where I discuss the concern that even if we did win, we'd probably fumble the ball anyway. And then there's fascism, and those boys play rough.